So, Edwin Diaz resigned for 3 years, $69 million. I'm sorry, what? Not with the Mets? With the Dodgers? Okay, alright, okay. See how today's going to be. It's going to start like that, okay. Alright. Just, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go and, just to, drown myself in my tub. Be right back. Roll the music. Welcome to Mike's Mets Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Pichota, and I'm upset. This is, so the New York Mets were not able to come to a contract with Edwin Diaz, and it appears, according to reporting from reliable sources at ESPN, Jeff Passan and others, are saying that the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are already the world champions and already have a loaded bullpen with a lot of overpaid closing options, have gone ahead and signed Edwin Diaz to a 3-year, $69 million contract. So the rich get richer is what we can take away from this. They didn't really need him, but they were like, yeah, why not? So, I'm trying to restrain myself as much as possible. This is, very frustrating. I can't really... So, the entire offseason, we have been hearing from sources saying that David Stearns, the Mets president of baseball operations, is reluctant to give out extra years. Doesn't want to do that situation for starting pitchers. It is wary of giving away too many years to pitchers who are, very notably very unreliable long-term options. So a lot of people were the assumption was going to be that Diaz was looking for a 5-year contract, and that Stearns probably wasn't going to give him that deal and was trying to get him to settle for a 4-year contract. And then the Dodgers swoop in here and offer 3 years, $69 million. What was being said, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but they were saying, 4 years for 88 was the Mets offer to Diaz, which was a substantial offer. I believe a raise over his contract prior to the opt-out. And, it looks, on paper, it looks like a really good deal for Diaz. He takes fewer years for more money here, higher AAV anyway. I'm baffled. I don't really understand it. It's one of those situations where I'm sure this is a lot of deferred money. We're probably going to find out later on in the details that are going to come out that he is probably, I don't know. This is ridiculous. All right, so my main frustration here is that the Mets really need to kind of get something done here. The other news of this morning was that Kyle Schwarber had re-signed with the Philadelphia Phillies, so the Phillies are getting back their top slugger, and the reporting is that Pete Alonso is meeting with the Red Sox and Orioles. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up signing with either one of those teams, because either one of those teams needs a big slugging first baseman option. I'm starting to wonder if it's just David Stearns. I'm starting to wonder if he is the problem here. If his negotiating style is just completely counterintuitive to trying to sign major free agents. Juan Soto aside, Soto signed for an absurd amount of money that Steve Cohen was really the one kind of greenlighting those deals. But this is, a contract that feels like the Mets could have easily matched. It was 3 years, $69 million. It's $23 million a year. 23 million AAV. You can't do that? It's absurd that the Mets can't re-sign Edwin Diaz to this kind of contract. And now we are really in a pickle right now because the Mets have already signed Devin Williams, which is a good signing. I like it. It's a signing where I'm like, okay, like, do we have another late game option here just in case Devin Williams repeats his struggles in 2025. And his struggles were not as pronounced as people would make him out to be. There was a lot of other stuff going on. His FIP indicates that a lot of it is just bad luck. He was still striking out guys at the same rate that he always has, walking batters at relatively the same rate, and everything's basically the same. But it's just unbelievable. And I would wonder if this is a case of Diaz just trying to get out of New York and trying to play for a winner. Maybe that might be the selling option here. But I'm also wondering if it is David Stearns' just lack of negotiation skills that prevents the Mets from signing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I would if it was like 3 years for like $100 million, or like it was like 5 years for like 120, whatever it might be. If it was an absurd amount of years or a big contract value, I could say the Mets would be like, all right, well, we're not paying that much for a closer. We're not giving out that many years for a closer. Go ahead and take him. But 3 years for $69 million is very doable. And even though that they shelled out a 3-year deal for $51 million to Devin Williams, I pair the two together. And we were not anticipating that this was going to be the case, especially because this is not that much more money to pay for Diaz than they pay for Devin Williams. And I would have assumed that it was going to be a reversal, that Devin Williams was going to the Dodgers, if anything, and the Mets were going to re-sign Diaz. But now we end up with Devin Williams by himself as the main closing option. And this is just, I would agree with most people here. I give Stearns a lot of benefit of the doubt. Generally, he's usually somebody where I'm saying, okay, well, let's look for the big picture. This is just a complete mess up on the part of the Mets to not re-sign their premier closing option, the number one closer in baseball. Essentially, this is the number one guy. And they couldn't re-sign him for a contract that was very much within their means to re-sign the guy. It was not an absurd amount of money here. This was not a lot of years. You could do this contract if you have the ability to do so. And the only reason I could see that Diaz's entourage, his agents, or Diaz himself was not interested in it, was that Diaz was more interested in playing for the Dodgers, who are back-to-back World Series champions. That it was very enticing for him to kind of play for a winner, play for a team that has a ton of options here, has a lot of as offense, doesn't have any problems with their offense, doesn't have any problems with their pitching staff. Everything's great in LA, and if you're a chance to be paid out like a premium closer, and a chance to get away from what I'm starting to look at as just like sort of like a chaotic situation going on over in New York, because with everything else going on with the clubhouse distractions that apparently are cooking up now with stuff, there's the reporting, which vague and circumstantial as it might be, of Lindor and Soto butting heads, and that Jeff McNeil and Lindor had problems, and that Carlos Mendoza wasn't keeping a very tight ship in 2025, and that's kind of what led to everything going off the rails. Looking over in LA, it looks like a much more smoother ride over there, right? I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the major selling points for Diaz, to just sort of get out of the chaos. And even though he would have been embraced, very fully by the Mets fans, he was like, generally as it usually is, like if he's like if there's like 3 blown saves from Diaz, people are calling for his head generally in the New York press. And even though LA is still like a major market, it's usually a much more chill environment over there. I think that's another major selling point. I don't really know what Diaz's motivations would be. I know the Dodgers had signed or acquired. I forget how they acquired him, but they had acquired Diaz's brother a while back, and then waived him, and then he was picked up by the Braves. So my assumption would have been that, like, oh, okay, like, he wouldn't go to LA because of the way that they treated his brother. Apparently that had no bearing on it, so I guess we can throw that out. But he is going to. This is just I'm struggling. I'm really struggling to find the words to kind of really express my frustration. It's just a mess up, and there's a clear downgrade now. From Diaz to Williams, as good as Williams has been for multiple years, and I like the signing as a setup man, as a depth signing, as a closer. I have a lot more concerns about it, and it looks like they just went with the cheaper option, which I don't like. I don't like them just going with the cheaper option and saying, well, we can get probably the same production from Devin Williams in 2026 as we would have gotten from Edwin Diaz. It's a gamble. It's another gamble by Stearns. And I would check this guy's like Bet365 account sometimes, because I would be like, how many like crazy bets is this guy making? Where he can just say like, yeah, no, we're going to sign Frankie Montas, and we're going to turn that guy around also, and that didn't work out. He just takes a lot of gambles for a guy who is in a very precarious situation. There's not like really a sort of Damocles situation with him, but he is like one bad season probably from getting run right out of town, and we see this all the time with GMs in any sport, that if you make like one like colossal screw up move, where in this case not re-signing Edwin Diaz, really colossal screw up move. If this is what they did, and this ends up being the sole focus of their offseason, it was just them not re-signing their departing free agents, Diaz and I if they weren't able to re-sign Edwin Diaz, I don't think they're going to re-sign Pete Alonso. I'll say it right now. This is very unlikely, and he's going to come into this with also already trading off a fan favorite Brandon Nimmo, and I appreciate the strategy and the long-term thinking there, that they get out of Nimmo's contract. Whatever, I've already talked about that. I'm not gonna go back into that. But you've traded away a fan favorite. You're probably you've already let a fan favorite closer depart. Probably the best closer this franchise has ever had. And now, most likely, I would say, we don't have a guarantee, but I would say most likely he's going to Boston or Baltimore, and he's not coming back to the Mets, because the Mets have not shown any interest in re-signing him. And again, this comes down to David Stearns. David Stearns is not negotiating like somebody who is has a poker face. He's not. He's made it very clear that he has no interest in re-signing Alonso. And so, if you're coming into this thing not having re-signed Alonso, not having re-signed Diaz, traded away Brandon Nimmo, didn't sign Carl Schwarber, which I didn't really have any I had no real expectations that they were going to sign Kyle Schwarber, but as a replacement potentially for Alonso, I like the idea of them signing him as a DH now. With Schwarber off the board, likely Alonso off the board, and Edwin Diaz definitely off the board, I don't have any real expectations now. If I was going to put a prediction list as to what's going to happen for the remainder of this offseason, I would say, they're definitely going to sign Cody Bellinger, and if they don't sign Cody Bellinger, then something really went bad. But that's the guy I think that Stearns is really eyeing very hungrily. I think that's the guy that he really wants to sign, is Cody Bellinger, and signing Cody Bellinger would go a long way to doing it, to sort of reinstilling some faith I would have in Stearns. But you got to sign a starting pitcher. They're already there's reporting coming out as of yesterday that the Mets are reluctant to give out the long-term contracts to these starting pitchers, and I'm like, you have to buckle at some point. You have to acquiesce to the demands, because you need a starting pitcher. You need an elite pitcher here. You need to bring in Framber Valdez, and you need to sign him for whatever the contract is. Stop playing hardball, because you're clearly not good at it. You're not good at signing these guys back. You don't have, and they just don't have any kind of there's no situation where they're well, at least we have so and so back there. We don't have anybody. We don't have an ace starting pitcher to rely back on. We have guys who have potential. We have Nolan McLean. I love Nolan McLean, but he's not an elite starting pitcher yet. He may very well turn out to be one, but he's not one yet. And they don't have anyone else to stand to rely on there in that situation. Kodai Senga has proven he can't do it. And then you have David Peterson collapsed in the second half of the season after a really great first half, but a complete collapse in the second half. So I can't rely on him either. So they need to bring in. They need to start doing things, and they need to start doing them quickly and fast. Because momentum is everything in this game, and momentum is not in the Mets is not in the Mets' favor right now. They do losing Edwin Diaz is such a bad move from any stretch, like from not just from the production loss that you're going to lose having that reliable ninth inning option, and now you've replaced him with Devin Williams, who I think will slip back into his normal dominance. But there are questions with Devin Williams that there were not questions with Edwin Diaz, and you need to make these moves as quickly as possible. Sign Bellinger, sign Framber Valdez, sign somebody else, make a trade here, do something, re-sign Pete Alonso, or replace him with somebody that we can trust will be either a defensive improvement or a decent production replacement for Alonso. But they gotta do it, and they gotta do it quickly, because if the momentum continues to shift like this, and it will spiral very quickly, and it will go out of control, and there's going to be a horde of Met fans who are just going to be calling for Stearns' head. And Stearns may not care about that now, but when 2026 starts, and if they don't have the players that they really need, he has a massive task ahead of him, but he needs to prioritize signing some premier free agents here, making good moves to replace production. He can't do his normal thrifty shit. He's got to start to mess it around. I'm sorry for cursing. I usually don't like to curse on the podcast. He cannot screw around with this stuff, or else it's going to go bad very quickly. And I'm already seeing the warning signs here. And this is a big flashing warning sign. If you do not re-sign Edwin Diaz and you replace him with Devin Williams and say this is just as good, it's not the same. This is a clear downgrade. You did not do your job as the president of baseball operations for the Mets if you let Edwin Diaz go for a 3-year, $69 million contract. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm very frustrated, and I'm going to let this go before I go off any further. But I do not like what happened today, and he's got to come back swinging if he's going to replace any of the faith he just lost. Because I'll tell you, I really give Stearns a lot of benefit of the doubt and a lot of his moves. This is one that was just stupid and ridiculous, and I don't like it at all. And I do not know what they're doing right now. I don't know what they're doing, and I need them to give me a sign, and quickly, if they are going to renew my faith in them. Do it fast. Thank you for listening to Mike's Mets Podcast. If you haven't already, please follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment. It helps so much. Finally, please follow our Twitter and Blue Sky pages. You can find us at Twitter at Mike's Mets Pod, all one word, and on Blue Sky at Mike's Mets Podcast.bsky.social. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day or evening, and let's go Mets.